Hi, my name is Ted Smith, and I'm a minister member of the Presbytery of Middle Tennessee, and I teach here at the Vanderbilt Divinity School. For the last 5 years, I've served as a member of the Board of Directors of the Covenant Network of Presbyterians. Lucky for me, it's a conference that's easy to get excited about. I think we have a crucial topic, exactly what we need to be thinking about right now, and I think we've got a great group of people to lead us through it. As the conference team was planning this and beginning to think about the conference, we felt like we were working at a time when all kinds of changes were underway. The election of Barack Obama, for sure, but also the emergence of a movement that identified itself as both progressive and evangelical, and then the historic shifts in the voting patterns of our own presbyteries as we considered Amendment B. Changes underway, changes that maybe weren't always visible on the surface, but some deep changes nonetheless. And so it seemed to us that what we needed to do at this conference was to stop for a minute and to listen and to try to discern what God was doing in our midst and to listen for how we might be called as a church to respond. So we decided to try to gather around the topic of the church we can see from here. We're going to be exploring this topic from all kinds of angles. I mean, Christology and Christian sexual ethics, of course. It's a Covenant Network conference, and these are, rightly, our two preoccupations. But we're also going to be thinking about religion and politics, and about race and ethnicity, and about liturgy and preaching, and about ministry to, by, with, for, and from young people, and more. All of these angles kind of gathered together under the topic of the church we can see from here. We're not going to be trying to do some kind of sociological megatrends forecasting, but we're going to be trying to do the perennial work of the church, to be the church in the midst of doing the work, of asking what God is doing and how God is calling us to respond. We have a great group of people to lead us in this work, I think. Some of them are well known in Presbyterian circles, some of them are well known beyond Presbyterian circles, and so I think it's a great mix of insiders and newcomers, just the mix we need to think about this topic. Our first plenary speaker is Mark Achtemeier. Professor Achtemeier is the Associate Professor of Theology and Ethics at Dubuque Theological Seminary. He is known throughout the denomination not only for his theological insight, but also for the integrity of his character. He served on the task force for the peace, unity, and purity of the church, and he is, to my mind, on that very, very short list of people who are the conscience of our denomination. Also speaking will be Kenda Dean. Kenda Dean is Associate Professor of Youth, Church, and Culture at Princeton Theological Seminary. She is a dynamic, knock-your-socks-off kind of speaker, and she has something important to say. She is hands down, without doubt, one of the leading experts on youth ministry in the most capacious sense of that phrase. And I think she can help us think not only about youth ministry, but help us think across the generations about what ministry of every kind might look like in this day and age, might look like in the church we can see from here. Our third plenary speaker will be Eddie Glaude. Eddie Glaude is the William S. Todd Professor of Religion and African American Studies at Princeton University. Cornel West hailed him as, quote, the towering public intellectual of his generation. That's a lot to live up to, and Professor Glaude lives up to it through his work in the classroom at Princeton, where he's a beloved and revered teacher, through his research. He's one of the most important interpreters of the legacy of American pragmatism, to his activism with the Jamestown Project and the State of the Black Union Conference, to his media appearances on everything from Hannity and Combs to Tavis Smiley. One of the towering public intellectuals of his generation. It will be a real gift to be with him at this conference. Our fourth plenary speaker is Dawn Moon. She's the Assistant Professor of Sociology at Marquette University, and she is the author of one of the smartest and most interesting books to come out on the church and sexuality in recent years. Professor Moon is not a theologian, she's not an ethicist, she's a sociologist, she's an ethnographer, she's trained in the art of critical and charitable listening. And she listened to church folk talk for a long time about sex and sexuality. She discerned deep patterns, some surprising places of overlap, some interesting and again surprising implicit theological assumptions. If you're like me, you sometimes despair at the quality of our debates. It seems like we're just going to line up at the microphones and one more time run the same arguments a little bit louder that we've been running for the last 30 years. If we're ever going to say something new, if we're ever going to hear something new, it's going to take a moment of reflection, critical reflection, on what we've already been doing. Dawn Moon is the kind of person who can help us do that. And that's just the plenary speakers. The preachers are also a great lineup. We have Gregory Bentley, who's the pastor of Brown Memorial Presbyterian Church in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He's the current president of the National Black Presbyterian Caucus and a gifted preacher. It will be remarkable to get to worship with him. We also will welcome to the pulpit Melva Wilson Costin, Professor Emerita of Music and Worship at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta. Melva Costin is known throughout the denomination for her gifts as a musician, her gifts as a worship leader, as a scholar, and as one of the most tireless and wise servants of the denomination that we have known. She is absolutely one of the pillars of our denomination, and it will be an honor to hear her preach. The conference will be held November 5 through 7 at the Church of the Covenant in Cleveland, Ohio. The Church of the Covenant is surrounded by the campus of Case Western University, and that means we're expecting a great turnout of college students and 20-somethings. It also means, this campus setting means that a variety of cultural opportunities are within easy walk of the conference. November 5 through 7, Cleveland, Ohio. You can find out all that you need to find out about this conference at the website of the Covenant Network of Presbyterians, the church we can see from here. I hope to see you there.